This is alchemy, empowering those who care. Owners, caregivers, they gon' get you there. Expert insights, real stories, and more. Real strategies to help you grow for sure.
All right, welcome to the Alchemy Podcast. Today we've got Bradon Gustafson with Assisted Living Investing here. Brandon, welcome to the Alchemy Podcast. Thanks for coming down.
Yeah, excited to be here with you.
I think it was funny the way I saw one of your things on LinkedIn, and so I reached out to Drew, who kind of handles most of this stuff for us, and I said, hey, let's see if Brandon, I thought it was interesting about the whole investing side of things. And then later I don't remember how I found out, but it's like, hey, you're here in Utah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's do this in person. This would be great.
Might as well. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background? And ultimately, like, how did you get involved in assisted living, right?
Yeah. So I have a master's in healthcare administration from the University of Utah. I graduated in 2015, I think. So about 10 years. And when I started getting into healthcare, all I knew was I wanted to be in healthcare. I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like, even when I was in grad school, didn't know what I wanted to do. So as I started going down that path, I got into analytics. It's a lot of my professional background is in analytics. And as I started getting a little bit older, I was like, I really want to get into real estate. Actually, on June 9th, 2019.
That's very specific.
Yeah, I remember very specifically. My daughter was sick. I stayed home it was a Sunday. I stayed home from church to be with her. She's like 2 years old at the time. Stayed home from family dinner, and 2-year-old daughter that's sick. We're watching whatever's popular on TV. It wasn't Bluey because that wasn't a thing at that point. But whatever, Teletubbies, Sesame Street, whatever. So we're watching that, and I am like, I want to read a book. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in one day, and I was like, I got to get into real estate. I got to figure this thing out. So I started going down this path of real estate investing, trying to figure that out. And when I found assisted living, it just like clicked for me that I can blend these two worlds.
You're basically merging what you did in school and knowing what you wanted to do with this real estate aspect.
Yeah. I went to a Rich Dad Poor Dad event, left a little bit early. It was actually my 10th anniversary that I went to that. Talked to my wife before I went, but
oh, wow.
She's like, it's okay. I left a little early.
It was June 9th that you read the book.
June 9th.
Then when did you go to the conference?
June 19th, I went to the
Oh,
conference.
literally 10 days later.
10 days later.
Snap. Okay.
Took immediate action. I went to it. I left a little early because it was our anniversary, so I wasn't going to stay very long. And then started looking for meetups. Found a real estate education company here in Utah, joined that, spent a lot of time educating myself on real estate. And then, so this was getting into like late 2019 is when I was like, I'm ready to go. Let's figure this out. And then bought our first facility in September of 2020. So the journey to get to that point though, I don't remember exactly when this was. It was probably April, May of 2020. I was going to the chiropractor, sitting there. I was like 15 minutes early. So I got on my phone, get on LoopNet, knew I wanted to get into assisted living, found there's a filter for assisted living facilities on LoopNet. There was one in Utah, in Draper, clicked on it. Like before I could think of anything, clicked the contact me, started calling the broker. I was like, crap.
What am I doing?
He's like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, I saw your thing. I fumbled my way through it. I had no idea. He's like, yeah, I'll send you an NDA. Just get that signed and we'll send it over. I played it cool. Yeah, it's fine. Emailed my attorney like immediately. What is an NDA? What did I just agree to sign? Mm-hmm. He's like, it's normal. So took the scare away. And we were going to go see it. The day that Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID was the day we were going to look at the house. We were at IKEA over near the house. And then that happened. And it just kind of turned off. That one ended up not being a great opportunity for us. It didn't make sense financially.
Okay.
Through some other connections, found the one that we bought in September, which was in Colorado.
Okay.
And then if you've ever bought one, as you get close to the end, there's just like right before you close, there's this downtime. It's like you don't have anything, and then everything hits the fan, and then it's super busy trying to get everything done.
Yeah.
During that down period, I was like, oh, we have an extra couple $100,000. Let's see if we can find a second one. So we found a second one in Idaho, in Nampa, which is near Boise.
So you went from 0 to 2 pretty quickly.
Yeah, and we closed September 2020, February 21. So 0 to 2 facilities in 5 months.
Wow. Yeah. And in the middle of the pandemic. Which is the funnest time which is when we launched our software company.
Right,
was in 2020.
It's a great time to
do it. Calling facilities and stuff was, the best time ever.
Yes. It was rough, but I learned a ton from it. And it was great.
So let's talk a little bit about that experience. Like for those that are wanting to get into assisted living, like what timeframes have you seen for us? And I think ours was a little bit quick. We were in California. We put ours on the market in December of 2016, and we had an offer April 1st, and it was sold, cashed out was July. So it was with a 6-month period of time. By the time we listed it, everything was very quick. But I think from what I'm hearing, that's not necessarily the norm, but maybe it is in your case. What was that time frame?
So we, the one that we purchased in Colorado, we went under a contract. We made an offer in May, and then we closed in September. So it was a pretty quick close, all things considered, SBA and all the things that are involved with that.
Cool.
For them, I believe they had it on the market for close to a year.
Okay.
So they had it on the market for a while. It actually had been under contract. Things fell through, and then
Did that price drop over time, or was it pretty consistent?
They may have dropped it a little bit. Then the one that we bought in Idaho, we went under contract probably in October, and then closed on that one in February. It was a little bit longer, but that was the change of ownership license process just was taking longer in Idaho than in Colorado. They actually let us do a management agreement, so we operated the first 4 months under the other owner's license.
Yeah.
Idaho wouldn't let us do that. So
okay, gotcha.
we had to have all the paperwork and things in place.
So there's a couple ways I want to go here, because this is fascinating. I think it would be fascinating to people because, we go to conferences, you get a lot of people that are doing the same thing you did with going to the Rich Dad Poor Dad conference, but they're also going to the assisted living conferences that are available and seeing what's there. But in terms of getting the financing, what were some things that you had to get in place? Because like you said, that first one you purchased, and we don't need to get into numbers, but you had extra money left over. Yeah. So did you have your own saved up money? Did you have some collateral? What did that look like? How were you able to finance that?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to get into it. I didn't have anything. I had $30,000. I didn't have hardly peanuts when it comes to buying these types of facilities. So I took my dad to lunch. I knew he had money. He was interested in getting into real estate as well. And so I brought the idea to him. I was like, hey, can we make this work? And he had been considering using his HELOC on his primary residence to help fund an opportunity, whatever it was. He wasn't sure what he wanted to do yet. And so I pitched the idea to him, let's do assisted living together. I use your HELOC, that'll be our down payment, and then move forward with it. That's what we did. He's had the house for forever, had $500,000 in equity, so a large HELOC. And we were able to use a chunk of that, plus the equity in the house that we were buying to make it work. SBA loans, lenders will tell you they could do as low as 10%. In reality, you're probably looking at 15 to 20% down. It's just like what is going to happen.
At 10% is just to get you in.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
get you in the door. Right?
Start a conversation. Both of ours ended up being about 17 to 18% when all was said and done. So we sent that in. They'll look at the house. They really want to make sure there's enough equity in there to cover themselves in case something happens. But as we were getting into it, the first time was like, I don't know what I'm doing. It was very reactionary. Like they would ask me for this thing or that thing, business plans, underwriting. They'd want to see all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, I have a business plan.
You're like, what is this?
And AI wasn't a thing at that time. So I had to write an entire business plan, in 2 days. And so that was stressful. The second time I learned a lot. That's a lot of what I teach people is like this foundation. People are going to ask for it.
Right.
Like they will ask you the question. So you might as well do it now, even if you're not ready to start
Be
building
prepared.
the plan, build the foundation for it.
Yeah. That's actually really good advice. I feel like you can't go into this industry is not one you can just wing. So real quick, is your father just the money guy, or does he kind of help out with operations, or what's that dynamic there? Because again, in my situation, part of my facilities were owned. One of our locations I co-owned with my parents.
Yeah.
Had a brother working for me. So there's obviously those family dynamics.
Yeah.
Do you have that with on the finance side, or is he involved? Talk about that just quick.
Yeah, he is involved. So his experience, he works for a large electrical contractor here in Utah. I did procurement. Doesn't have experience in the healthcare industry at all. Right. So he was coming at it from that standpoint. So for people that want to get into it that don't have the experience, like you can do it. He wanted to be more involved. So I take over a lot more of the operational things. Like I have the experience. I work directly with our administrators to make sure they can navigate things. I interface with the state, those types of things. He does a lot more of the physical facility management. So if we need stuff done there, he'll take care of that. He takes care of finances, does a lot of the bookkeeping, keeps track of the books for us, and then is involved in conversations with administrators when we have them. Like when we go do site visits, or we have our weekly, bi-weekly check-ins with the admins. He's there and asking questions that are a little more focused on finances and what's going on at the facility. And mine is more, how are the staff doing? How are the residents doing? Are we meeting their needs? Because like, I just have that experience and know the questions to ask. But yeah, he's involved with it, which has been really nice. Cool. It does turn, Sunday dinners into business conversations, which is rough. But
that's true. You can never get away. I know my wife would be like, "Can go on vacation? You're still talking about business," and you're like, "Can we just stop?" It's like it's our everyday life, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's what we do. So we're going to talk about it.
So when somebody wants to get into facilities, right? There's obviously different routes that you can go.
Mm-hmm.
You chose the route of purchasing something that already existed.
Yeah.
And then there's others that say, well, I want to build my own. And you can buy a home and you can convert it. You can build from the ground up and kind of build whatever size you want and make the hallways the right size. You can do all that kind of stuff, right? Why did you choose the path that you went over another one?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I got started, before I found that one in Draper that I was telling you about, I had determined, okay, I'm gonna find something and convert it. Actually, before that, I was like, I'm gonna do some fix and flips, real estate investing, get enough income to start assisted living, and then we'll go to it from there. And I had a mentor of mine be like, you clearly just want to do assisted living, so just figure that out. So that was a mindset shift for me. And then I went and started looking at houses, just like got on Zillow and started looking at houses to see what was out there. My wife and I went and looked at a few and can we do a conversion here? What's that going to look like? How are we going to handle the stairs here? This, the hallway is a little bit wide and started looking at that and started realizing like this is difficult. I actually talked to, I can't remember his name now. It's a broker guy that has a lot of experience in Colorado that went to the Rawl Academy conference.
Yeah.
He taught it at
down in Arizona
back in 2021 or something like that. I got on their website, looked at who the speakers were, found him, reached out, and he's like, you should just buy an existing facility. And up to that point, I was like, I had no idea that was a thing.
At that point, you were really thinking, I'm gonna do a conversion. Do your own thing.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I'm gonna buy a house. I'm gonna convert it. That's how I'm gonna get into this because it never clicked in my mind that you could buy an existing house, existing business with it. Had the conversation. He's like, yeah, and I was like, oh, cool. How am I going to figure that out?
Yeah.
So that's when I started getting turned on to LoopNet and BizBuySell and some of those websites and finding them. So that's how I kind of got my pathway to it.
Mm-hmm.
And now to answer your question, why I went the way I did rather than a conversion, the pathway to profitability is so much faster when you can buy an existing facility because residents and staff are there. It's operating like it goes so much faster. You lose some of that ability to create it custom how you want it and some of those things that you just lose some control there, and some people don't like that, but for me, I would rather get in and run it. We will probably at some point build our own facility from the ground up because we would love to do it and create something that's a little more holistic from independent all the way up to skilled nursing and have a continuum of care, but that's years down the line.
Right.
We'll get there eventually, but that's not where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I think that the places that have built from the ground up, it's pretty cool because you can.
Yeah, it's so cool.
You can, especially after and I think that's right advice. Once you know what you're doing. Although we have a customer who she jumped in. They had a little experience and jumped right in and did a 15-bed, and they built from the ground up. It took them 3 years to build and all that stuff, and so it was a lot longer to make that money back and all that. But now they're in a good spot.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And what size facilities do you have?
Both of ours are 16 beds.
Okay, cool.
So yeah.
Now, when you were looking, were you specifically looking for a specific size, or what was like your mentality there? Because my advice to people is always, if you're going to do a 6-bed, you might as well do a 15-bed or something. They're essentially the same. In fact, they're easier if you run a 15-bed or a 20-bed. It's easier than running a 6-bed.
100% agree. Yeah, and that was as I was getting into it, I didn't know what I wanted. I knew I wanted an assisted living facility. That was it. I was indifferent as to how many beds. And then as I started digging into deals and doing underwriting, that's when I started really figuring out it makes so much more sense to get to the high end. So there's typically, like, depending on the state, there's like 3 groups of facility types. There's like up to 4 to 6 for a care home, and then there's the residential facility that's up to 16 to 20, and then there's 20 plus. And so for me, looking at that, it was like 8-bed versus 16-bed It's the exact same license, probably the exact amount of staff. Like I'm probably not going to have many more staff for it, but I'm going to make double the income. So
Yeah.
it makes a ton of sense to do that.
Well, plus the other part of that too is because inevitably in this industry, there's call offs,
yeah.
right? So you have somebody that calls off. And when you are in a 6-bed and only have one worker, that person calls off. It's much difficult than you have 2 or 3 workers on, one calls off. It's, it's manageable. You can get some help. And so that makes it a lot easier.
It really does. Yeah. It's so much. And for me, looking at it from an investment standpoint, I personally would never look at anything less than 10 beds at this point.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't make sense. That doesn't mean that they're not profitable, because I've done underwriting with people when I'm coaching them that 6-8 bed facility makes sense. They're going to cash flow $10,000-$20,000 a month with an 8-bed facility.
Yeah,
possible.
It just all matters on what they're charging.
More for me, the risk is like I don't want to take that on.
No, that makes sense,
because your margins there. You have 8 beds. You go through a spell where you only have 5 or 6 on your occupancy. You're losing money. You're just hemorrhaging cash at that point. So it gives you a lot more breathing room with more beds facility.
So in your facilities, so usually when I've talked to people who are getting in from outside of the industry, right? They weren't brought up in it or whatever. Like usually there's some kind of, they see that there's an opportunity, financially, of course, right? But there's also another problem that they're hoping to solve. In a lot of cases, it's, my grandmother was in a place or something like that, right? Was there anything like that for you when you were saying, we're going to do this, you want to put your own flavor on it? So what was that? What's that difference in your facilities?
And I don't have a personal story that a lot of people have with it, where their parents or their grandparents and they grew up with it like that. And I strongly encourage people, if you want to get into this, it's helpful for you to have that connection and not be financial. For me, mine is a little more broad. The reason why I got into healthcare and did a master's degree in healthcare administration was I knew I loved it. When I was in high school, I did an intern with a physical therapy office. I was a CNA. Like I worked in that area. I'm passionate about the impact that we can have on people. So while I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got into healthcare, I love that I get to have an impact on people's lives and a positive impact and help them through that. That's why I'm in healthcare and the industry. And being able to blend, like we were talking about, real estate with that. So getting the benefits of real estate investing, the cash flow and the appreciation on homes and all of that comes with real estate, and blending that with the impact that you get to have on people's lives. That's, for me, why I wanted to get into it. It is that, like, being able to go and talk to our residents and their families and getting to know them and just having so much fun talking. Like it's awesome. It's exactly what I wanted out of it.
Right.
And I get to be a lot more patient facing, resident facing than I do in my professional career.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so rewarding.
Yeah. So this has obviously become a passion because now you're teaching, right? You're part of what you teach, and you talked about coaching. Let's start there. What's the biggest misconception that you see when people come to you, or that you're seeing of when it comes to investing in assisted living or running assisted living?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the people that you're talking to. There's generally 2 big broad groups that I talk to. One is healthcare workers, that they've been doing this. They've been a nurse, they've been a caregiver, they've been an administrator at a facility, and they know they can do better than what they're experiencing. And I 100% believe that they can. But they don't have this background of the business, like how to do that, the investing thing. Generally, they don't have great credit. They don't have any money. So they're coming at this from a very different point of view compared to a real estate investor or somebody that wants to be in real estate, that is a lot more focused on, I see the incredible cash flow value that I can get out of this business. And so it really depends on the person and where they're coming from and how they're going to approach this. And I have to kind of reset expectations depending on the person I'm talking to. So you get a healthcare worker that doesn't have the money and they're very close-minded, like, I'm never going to have it. I'm going to have to wait 20 years to save up any money to do this. And you can get started on doing things and building relationships, going to real estate meetups, building your business plan, talking to people and having conversations and showing them that you're savvy enough to do a lot of this stuff. Whereas a real estate investor, it's like, they want to find an operator. That's a little bit harder to find an operator when you're a real estate investor, because they don't go to these conferences or meetups or things like that. But it's getting active in Facebook groups and forums and having conversations and starting to build that out with them to help them go. So depending on the path, it's kind of slightly different conversations there. with people. But there's a lot of there with assisted living. It feels overwhelming. It's more than just real estate because there's a business attached to it, and to get people to understand that you have to understand the finances of it before you get started, and you have to spend time underwriting, and the staffing piece of it is so expensive. Like
It's your most expensive piece.
by far. Yeah. It's like at least half of your expenses is going to go to staff.
Yeah.
And people can't, it's so hard to grasp that. And teaching people that is a struggle sometimes, because you look at it and you're like, oh, cool, I could do this. But then, like we were talking about, 8-bed facility, you have a census of 5 for 3 months. All of a sudden you're losing a ton of money, and you have to like consider that as you're going into this.
Yeah.
And people, they just get these big green dollar signs in their eyes about the potential of it. And I probably did that a little bit on my first one, where I wasn't as conservative as I could or should have been with my underwriting. And it put us in a spot where we're fine. But compare it to where I took a lot more time on my second facility and figured things out. I was a lot more conservative in my underwriting and understood the finances a little bit more.
Yeah.
That one does so much better from a financial standpoint. And the stress that it removes from my life makes it so much easier to operate it and,
For sure.
and move forward with.
I think one piece of advice, I think you would agree with me on this one, that I see time and time again, is when it comes to the underwriting and looking at the finances, is missing the idea of the upkeep inside of a home.
Oh yeah.
So like a facility can be opened up, and even if you buy it, you've got money to like renovate it and make things nice, right? But then because of the nature of the business, you are dealing with changing briefs and urine and elderly people. So things are going to get beat up. And one of the things that I see as a challenge is these homes get opened up, and then 2-3 years later, they're all beat up, and the owner has sucked all the cash out of the business, not thinking, I need to set aside a specific
Contingency
percentage or
fund,
something to buy new furniture and things of that nature. And then that plays a dump, and
nobody wants to
go there. And now they're closing down. And
I hear that a lot from real estate investors. Like, if you listen to podcasts and they talk about assisted living, they always say these are their residents, they're 80 years old, they're not going to be rough on the furniture. And they're not college kids. They're not throwing each other into the walls and creating holes and things like that. But it's a different level of maintenance. And you're going to have AC units in every single room. And some of your residents are heaters. And some of your residents are going to run it all day, every day, 365. And those things, you're going to have to replace them. Yeah. And it's different types of maintenance that you're going to be handling. And it can be rough when it's like, I have to replace 6 AC units, and they each cost $5,000. Like that's a huge expense.
The other piece of advice that I would like to give to the audience, and I think maybe you would agree or disagree here, but I just went and visited somebody in Southern California, and we were having this discussion. And one of the things that in these typical homes, you're using residential appliances.
Yes.
So think of your dishwasher.
Yeah.
Well, in assisted living, that dishwasher is probably running
nonstop,
probably 4 or 5 times a day, whereas a typical family, you run it once. Yeah. And so that wear and tear is going to wear out. Same thing with the clothes, washer and dryer.
Yes.
And one of the things when we were sitting there talking, it was like, I wish I would have bought a commercial dryer or just spent more money because then we had to have somebody on, not retainer, but basically at the call to come in and do plumbing and do these different things that if we just would have spent a little bit more, right, it would have gone a lot better.
We, in Colorado, for the first few years that we owned that facility, had a residential washer and dryer.
Okay.
Dryer went out all the time. They had just bought it right before we purchased it, so it was under warranty. So whichever company would come and do the warranty work on it, and then 2 weeks later it would break again. And the company, it's under warranty, they got to do the work on it. But they were getting really frustrated with us because
they're like, this is a different level.
This is ridiculous of having to come out here. And we were having to take clothes to the laundromat to do things. So we eventually were just like, yes, let's buy a commercial.
Yeah.
And the heating elements go out on them. They just get beat up. And so it's worth it to spend an extra $500 on a unit to get something that can handle the volume that you're giving it.
Yeah,
with
for
all
sure.
the appliances, for sure.
For sure. You got to think of those things and put that into the budgeting for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
So in your estimate, and obviously you're teaching this, you're helping people do this. What makes assisted living a great investment? Like, why do it instead of something something else?
Yeah, I think like the cash flow is there, and it's, if you look at other people on YouTube, they'll tell you, $10,000 per month that you're going to cash flow, and it's possible to do that. I always like tell people pump the brakes. Like, yes, you can absolutely do that, but you want to make sure that you understand all of the expenses before you do it, and don't just rush into it because you found a YouTube video that told you it has the potential to do it. Each deal is going to be different,
right?
But the cash flow is there. Like, you can make a lot of money off of it, and that's great. It's nice, and something that I enjoy. But for me, the thing that is more valuable is like interacting with residents. My facilities are out of state, so I'm not there all the time, which honestly for me is better, because otherwise I'd probably be there all the time. I wouldn't be able to stop myself. So being able to go up and visit them a few times a year, and building relationships with people is so nice, and just getting to know them and their families. Like, I've done just, sometimes we'll just take donuts and have conversations just in general. Sometimes it's like I'll bring them in and just have one-on-one conversations with them and get to know their life story and talk with them. And like, we had one that recently passed away that she showed dogs, like at professional dog shows. So she would tell me all about her dogs and things. The dog she had in our facility, which we allowed, was not the prettiest dog, but the ones that she did when she was showing
did she try
dogs,
to show it though? Did she?
I don't know if she did. When I was there, no.
We used to have nurses that thought they were still nurses, right, with dementia, and so they were running the facility like they were the head nurse.
Really?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
There was things like that, or like, what was the other one? It was like I think it was like a pilot, and she was very put together. I don't know. It's just stories like that really kind of go back. But
it's
so I wondered,
fun. Yeah, to just get to know their history, where they came from, and see their personalities and how they interact with people. And like, we have cameras in some of our facilities, so I'll get on there every now and then, see the games that they're playing. I just like the crafts and the things that they do, and getting the pictures from our administrator, like, we did this, or the updates. Those things are like, honestly, so much more rewarding than having the cash flow coming. It makes it worth the struggle of owning the business, because it is a struggle to own those businesses. And there's a lot that goes into it, headaches and paperwork and stuff like that you just don't anticipate as you're getting started. But the impact you have on people's lives is incredible.
I remember one of the things I used to always tell my staff was, nothing will make me happier as an owner, as an operator, than to walk in, and as long as things are clean, you're sitting there doing something with the resident. You're giving them a hand massage, you're playing a game, you're laughing, whatever it is. And nothing will make me more upset than seeing you not do that. You just wasting time.
You're on your phone, sitting over there in the corner, in the laundry room, hiding from the residents. Which that's happened before, right?
Of course. Everyone runs into that.
There's always bad stories about things.
Well, and the thing is that it's that 80-20 rule. It's 20% of the employees cause 80% of the headache, that kind of thing. But we used to also do like you used to probably seen the cartoon Up, the movie Up. Well, there's about a 7-minute clip at the beginning of that movie where it kind of shows, I think it starts with him being old, and then it kind of flashes back, and it shows his life and how he met his wife and just all these memories, right? And it was one of the things that we shared as part of our, when people when employees would first come in, like, we showed that, and we had this little portal where we would have that video, and it was to remind people that although we get them when they're 80, 90, dementia, whatever, they had these lives. You know what I mean? And it was very helpful to kind of get that mind shift of like, they're not who they are today. They're somebody much more than that. So that was the rewarding part, is hearing those stories of nurse and all these different things. So that was fun.
It's so much fun. We my facility in Colorado actually is a mental health facility. So we deal with schizophrenia and bipolar at that house, which is totally different than senior care, but it's still, they're so much fun to go talk to. A lot of them are younger. A lot of them are 50 or younger. But they're just so much fun to talk to and get to know and have conversations with and see them. And so it's that's a really, one of the cool things about assisted living that I didn't realize as I was getting into it, is there's so much that you can do. You could have a veterans focused home. You could do mental health. You could do developmental disabilities. You can do senior care, like there's
dementia specific.
Dementia, memory care. And there's so much in this niche of assisted living that you can even go further down for whatever you're passionate about. And that is awesome.
And I think the other part of it, I think why it does make a good investment, to kind of add to that question, why does it make a good investment? The elderly population is still growing.
Oh, yeah.
They're still expected to double. There's still need for this type of care. And so, there's great opportunity for those who can come in and either buy buildings or build buildings, but run them good, run them efficient, provide a really good product and service for the industry because it's needed. We need good homes, right? In what I do now, we talk to lots of facilities. Whenever we go out and do sales calls, we do visits and we go visit homes, and we've seen quite the spectrum, and there's really great ones and there's really terrible ones, right?
Yeah.
And so we need better ones, right? Like hopefully my parents don't watch this episode, but the reality is that they may end up in assisted living one day. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that we'll have the means and be able to care for them and they won't get that way. But the odds are that they are that way. And so I think us as a younger generation who are, I want my mom or dad to be in a place that is run efficient and cares about the residents, right? Yeah. So that opportunity is definitely there. From your perspective, how do you go about evaluating, what property or which way to go? What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's like if I'm looking at a new opportunity.
Yeah.
For me, what I learned from my first to my second was location is important, like real estate and location. It's kind of the same thing. But for me, that's not like, this perfect house on the corner in a cul-de-sac or whatever. It's more of which market is going to be feeding my facility in a way that makes sense. And you can typically be, it's like a 5 to 10 mile radius is typically like here in that area, then you can take advantage of the things that are in that area.
Right.
So for me, what I learned was spending time figuring out the market on where I want to be is as important as the house itself. So my first facility was very much in Colorado Springs. I want to do this. I don't know much about it. I'm going to just brute force my way into it, and we're going to make it work.
And that again, that was the one that's the behavioral.
That's behavioral.
So you jumped from.
Yeah,
you really jumped in the fire, Penny.
We jumped in the fire, and the house is so cool. It's a 4-story house. It was built in the 1890s.
Wow.
It was moved like across the bridge and from downtown Colorado Springs to Old Colorado City. Has cool history. Like really cool house, and maybe we got a little like carried away with the story of the house. But I knew I wanted to do assisted living. It was there. The numbers made sense. Jump in and do it. The second one, as I was starting to do this and having operated in Colorado for a little bit at that point, was like my eyes were open to some of the difficulties of operating and operating in that specific state and understanding how politics can fall into owning a small business. And so I started looking at other locations and doing a really deep market research. And at that point, had found Idaho was like on a short list of 3 to 4 cities. The Boise area specifically was what we landed on. And as we started digging into that and understanding the market and seeing the houses that were out there and the cash flow potential and the proximity to us, for us, like it just made a ton of sense. And so for me, one of the first things I want to look at is where is it located? And if I want it to be close to me, like if I live in Utah and I want it to be close to me, then Idaho's not going to make sense, right? Or Colorado's not going to make sense. But if I'm okay investing out of state, which one and how close? And I want to do that research and make sure. And things that I'm looking at when I'm doing the market research are, I want to see trends. Where are people retiring to? What do people think? What's that median household income? And how are you going to look at that? I also want to see generally like the population between like 50 and 65, because that's my market, who I'm marketing to, because it's their parents that are going into assisted living.
Right.
Parents probably aren't going to be looking, but I want to have a really sound population of. That's why I want to look at where people are retiring, because typically 50 to 65 people are thinking about where to retire. They're looking at those lists. They're moving to Arizona. They're going up to Boise, was what I found. It was big. And so I want to see that. And then they'll be like, okay, well, I just uprooted myself. I moved to this town. Mom needs assisted living, but she's 2 states over. I want her to be here with me. I'm going to move her up to me rather than displace myself again.
Right.
And so that's a lot of what I want to see. And then from there, it's now let's see what's on the market, house to convert, space to build, opportunities to buy and start operating.
Yeah.
And then it's now specific. opportunities for, is this going to cash flow? Is it going to make sense
Right.
financially for me? Because as much as I love the residents and going there, if I'm losing $20,000 a month, then it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it
I'm
doesn't
not
make
gonna do
sense.
it. So, that's kind of the sequence that I go through.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you bring up a good point. It's not just about what elderly population is there, but it's like what population has now parents. Because you reminded me of a resident that we had that her daughter lived in our town where we had our facility, and she moved her mom from Florida to California. You know what I mean? Because again, she wanted her to be close.
Yeah.
You know, usually if you're moving into assisted living, right, you're on the downslope of life, right?
Yeah.
And so you only have maybe a few years left. I think assisted living on average, I think it's like 3 years or something like that.
About right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something like that.
3.5.
And so, it ends up being, you want them closer. So it's good to think about what that other population is there, because people will move them.
Yeah.
And then she passed away, and they, took the body back and did a funeral
Do
in
the
Florida.
funeral and everything there.
Yeah.
But now they're close to you. Yeah. It's something that, like a lot of people I've found in conversations, they think very specifically about the resident, but you just have to remember, like, the resident is not the person making the decision.
That's right.
Almost every time.
Correct.
10% of the time they will make the decision.
Yeah.
But 90% of the time it is their kids or their grandkids that are making this decision for them.
Right. And that's true. We were a dementia specialty facility, right? And so when people were looking, they were looking to place now. They were in a situation where they could not do it anymore, right? And so they're the ones making
had
that
exhausted
decision.
themselves, or
Exactly.
they were in a traditional assisted living and they can't meet the needs anymore. So they're trying to move somewhere else. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how do you deal when you're doing that analysis, also looking at the competition that's there, right? Because there can also be an oversaturation of assisted living facilities, right? I think Arizona has this specific law where you can only be within I think it's like a mile or 2 miles as the crow flies. They'll only allow, a certain amount. But how do you look at on that in terms of your evaluation?
And Texas has a rule like that too. It's like 500 yards or something between facilities. Like states, it's really interesting because I do this on a national level to see the different state rules that exist. It's interesting. For me, when I'm looking at it though, I definitely want to be looking at what else is in the area. And I know there's some guidance out there online where it's like, hey, if a big box facility goes in, then you should do it too, because I spent all the money doing the market research. And to a point, yes, but if there were already 10 small facilities there and then they put a big box, then you're really oversaturating it at that point. So for me, I kind of want to look at the population, going back to the market research, and like I teach people how to go and grab that data so you can find where it's at, because it's online, it's free. It's just knowing where to go to get it. Yeah. Part. So yeah, that you got to figure out what's the population actually like. Then you're going to have to blend that with the facilities that are in the area. And that's also publicly available data, but you got to go find it. It's usually going to be on the Secretary of State website somewhere. You got to go dig into that. Chatted with this guy in Colorado who did, it wasn't Tableau, but it was a software like that. Would allow him to do mapping. He grabbed all of the facility data, grabbed the population data, built this incredible map that showed all the things. And he's like, this is where I want to be. It's like, that's awesome. Going back to that 5 to 10 mile radius is typically what you're going to look at. People aren't going to travel more than that typically. So if you have I don't have a hard and fast rule, but if you have a decent population there, and in that 5 to 10 mile radius, it doesn't feel like it's oversaturated, then it's probably fine to move forward with. And it's really hard to say 10 facilities is the max or 15, because it just depends on what's in the area. Like, what type of population is it? Are you in a really ritzy area with nice homes and people have a lot of money and they're okay doing it? Or are you in apartments and people just don't have the money and it's just not going to make a lot of sense? And other things that are in proximity, hospitals or just other amenities, shopping, like those types of things. It is very much case by case. And if you're buying an existing facility, the nice thing is you can see how that has performed over time, and gives you a lot more confidence. When you're building from the ground up, you're taking a little bit of a shot in the dark, and so you like more caution is what I would say. That was a bit of a non-answer for you, but
no, that's good. I mean, I think to add to that too is don't be afraid to get out there and start pounding the pavement. You don't necessarily have to go visit the other facilities that are there, but I mean, you could reach out to placement agencies to find out, hey, what's missing in the market, right? You can talk to discharge planners at the hospital. It's amazing how just asking the questions, people were willing to talk. You just have to be not afraid to go and ask the questions, and you can get a lot of answers that way. Or
This is alchemy, empowering those who care. Owners, caregivers, they gon' get you there. Expert insights, real stories, and more. Real strategies to help you grow for sure. This the Alchemy Podcast. Creating better spaces, it's much to share. This the Alchemy Podcast. Help you build, grow, and thrive in the future of care. This the Alchemy Podcast.